little bigger raven, kind of, you know.
So you can drop shiny things that the people you have chosen to love. You can encourage them with shiny.
A sense of awe, you know.
Hi everyone, welcome to OSA Backstage. I'm Danny Meyer, this is Sauce, and today Serena and I are kicking off a 4-part series on the Omaha Chamber Music Society's Summer Concert Series. You know, the 24-25 season, orchestra season is almost done. We're finishing this week with Shostakovich 5 and a concert with our friends, the River City Mixed Chorus, their Disney Pride concert. We're super excited about that. And then we're thrilled to see our friends and our colleagues in the Omaha Symphony do something completely different at the Summer Concert Series. It's 4 weekends in June. We wanted to talk with some of the musicians who put these concerts together because it is a completely different way to see the musicians that you know and love, whether it's more traditional concerts like the ones you're going to hear about in the next few weeks, or it's the very abstract, super cool multimedia concert at the very end of the series that we talked today with Maria Harding about. Yes, it's a tribute to Willa Cather. When I first looked at the program, and Serena and I first looked at the program, we realized we didn't recognize most of the composers. And that's a really cool thing when you spend a lot of time in classical music to always find out that there are new rabbit holes to chase. And Maria got to take this idea of... Sorry, my other cat, Vicky, is now playing with my sweater. Anyways, Maria got to take this concept with her friend, visual artist Christina Narwich, about just paying homage to Willa Cather and this exploration of the Great Plains and turn it into a visual, audio, performance, dance medium. It is all of the above. You're going to hear all about it. It's a super cool idea, and I personally cannot wait to see it for myself in person. Maria is a joy, and I think she would make a wonderful bird. So find out more, hear for yourself, enjoy.
Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank
so
you.
Soon. You already, you know, oh my God, this is fun because usually when I do these introductory videos at home, my cat Sauce has to like jump up, so I need 14 takes because whatever she's doing and whatever fumbling thoughts I have, it takes a while to get going. I think it's the first time I fumbled an opening with other human beings present.
Right. I can leap onto your lap. That would be helpful. I got plenty of hair to shed.
I've got thighs for days. It's so nice to have you back.
Thank you.
This is a totally different project than the last one we talked about, and a totally different project for the Omaha Chamber Music Society. And so I wanted to preface it with, when we think about the Summer Concert Series, if you're familiar with it, it's the best of chamber music programmed over 4 weeks in June. And this is by far the most abstract program that I've seen OCMS do, and it's super cool to see them swing for the fences in this way. Whose idea was it to do a Willa Cather tribute?
It was, as the concert itself will be very collaborative. I feel really fortunate that I have such a good connection with OCMS that they would trust me to do something a little out of the box like that. That's very reassuring, and it's such a great organization that one can come up with programming, whether it's more traditional or unusual, and as long as everybody's on board, know as an artist that all of the nuts and bolts are going to get taken care of. The advertising is already in place, the beautiful programming, the program notes, the mailing list to let people know it's happening, the venues, all of that stuff. We are so lucky in Omaha to have Omaha Chamber Music Society as a set vehicle, not-for-profit, already ready to go so that we can do these projects. It's very freeing. And to answer your question more directly, this was very much a collaborative effort with the painter, Christina Narwich. And it occurs to me as I say that, because she's my friend, I haven't had occasion to say her last name to her, nor have her say her last name to me. So I need to check the pronunciation of my friend's last name, but it's Narwicz, Narwich is what I've always said.
I also have name anxiety. If it makes you feel any better, I have my friend Shannon, who runs Nodest Home and Houseplants. I know her name is Shannon. I swear to God I do. But every time I see her, my brain is like, well, it can't be Shannon because you have to be wrong. And so I just stare at her for a few seconds, like, please let it be Shannon.
And it's the worst when you really like the person.
Yes.
You genuinely like the person.
We
To me
do
all the time.
And Christina is a fantastic visual artist in Omaha, and her work is everywhere. Okay, so is Christina involved with the project as well?
So Christina, in fact, was where the idea came from originally, because she was working with the Willa Cather Willa Cather organization. Sorry, I always mess this up. Red Cloud, Red Oak. This is in Red Cloud, yes. Nebraska, and originally we were going to be doing something together there, or she was rather going to be displaying her art there as part of the Willa Cather 150th birthday anniversary celebration. And several years ago, she painted while the whole symphony was playing La Mer, and she liked that so much, and she prepared so mightily for it. And as her friend, I went to her studio and played and tried to play more like impressionistic music. So she would have a chance to practice painting to live music. She always has music, I guess, going in her studio, but to do it with live music and really be reacting to it. And so she actually practiced this discipline. So by the time she played La Mer, or she painted La Mer to our playing, she really felt part of the performance. It wasn't that she felt like an accessory in the wings or in the balcony there. She felt like she was creating art as art was happening. And she liked it so much, and knows what an affinity I have for this cross cultivation of the arts. I've done a few concerts now where I've brought together multidiscipline dance, a chocolatier even, or a sommelier, dance, spoken word, and lots of different instruments like accordion and things like that. So there was a tango concert I did not long ago that I found just deeply satisfying to do. So anyway, she knew that I would be interested in doing this with her at the Willa Cather Foundation. I need to double check that too. There I go with my name anxiety.
We can put it all in the video as we put it up. Yeah.
And from there, we started talking about what that was going to look like, and we thought about maybe even filming in the Willa Cather Memorial Prairie with drones and having some video element along with or in addition to. We knew that we wanted both the painting and the music to be inspired by Willa Cather's writing. The celebration it's shifted gears now, but was going to be focused on the Professor's House, the book, The Professor's House. So both she and I started reading the book, kind of opening our hearts for inspiration for music in my case. In her case, she's had talked about putting the canvas on the prairie ground and painting using inks and hues derived from the plants, the prairie plants themselves. She experimented painting with sticks and twigs and things like that to really, make it fully integrated if possible. And we knew we wanted to get more mileage out of it. And so my idea was then to approach Omaha Chamber Music Society to see if we could have some kind of expanded with more, take the same repertoire and expand it with more instrumentalists, more repertoire, and do a staged version of it. And she loved it. Omaha Chamber Music Society loved the idea. And it's kind of grown from there. I've tried to have it be fully collaborative with different disciplines without having it be overwhelming, because I think there can hit a point where too much is going on stage and you can't focus on any one of the art that's happening.
That's a really great point. And this is something Serena and I were talking about earlier was, this is not I'm going to see the Trout Quintet, or I'm going to go experience this fantastic string quartet chamber music program. And so I think that's already setting expectations for what this is going to be. The music is phenomenal, but it becomes about this 360-degree experience, and it's with music that I wasn't totally familiar with, and I thought that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you build a program where the barrier for entry is curiosity, is really curiosity only? How do you take that step?
Well, in a really general way, of course, being familiar somewhat with Willa Cather's writing, and in particular this book, there's a lot of talk. She describes beautifully the seasons. She develops characters in pairs. Sometimes they're a romantic pair, sometimes it's a mother and daughter, sometimes two daughters. But there's a lot of development of the pairs. And then I think you bring your own experiences to it. And so some of the repertoire choices were just composers that I knew about or I loved or whatever. But you'll notice that a lot of the composers or the pieces hope to evoke that openness of the prairie. Copeland, of course, immediately sprang to mind as something that people would recognize, all those wide open intervals and sometimes direct tributes to wide open spaces. Beef Tink has written a lot for flute, so there's that personal connection. But he does a lot with birds and bird song, and so that seems like a natural connection.
So many birds on this program.
So many birds. So many birds. There was a piece that I had just in my personal collection, The Fluttering of Wings, by Michael Levinas. And it was one of those pieces that I've wanted to play, just not had the opportunity. And I thought, perfect, The Fluttering of Wings fits into that perfectly. What else? Harburg is an up-and-coming composer. She's just all over the place, writes beautifully for everything but flute. She's just a champion in the flute world. And so I kind of poured through her collection to see if something stood out to me that would fit the program. I like that she's a young woman. I thought that kind of fit the spirit of what I was going for. And then if you look at the way the program is together, I tried to put it into pairs. So each half has a Copeland, each half has a solo flute, each half has a bird tribute or something like that. And that's that bringing together the development of pairs, like in Willa Cather's writing.
Okay.
I love that, because I was wondering, looking at the order, what the reasons were for putting them that way. That makes a lot of sense.
A lot of symmetry.
Yeah, I really love that.
Thank you.
How do you, and actually, in the brief reading I was able to do on Willa Cather, the one female contemporary writer that she seemed to appreciate, I think it was Sarah Orne Jewett, encouraged her to write from a female perspective, which I think is phenomenal. Apparently, Willa Cather naturally gravitated towards male perspectives with my Antonia. So shifting to the professor's house and shifting to this female lens is really fun when you have an almost all female collaborative group.
Right.
So how did you decide then who you were going to work with to expand this program out?
Well, I wanted to, again, kind of have my heart open to the idea of celebrating women. And naturally that meant that I would invite a lot of women artists, but I didn't want it to be exclusive because I thought the spirit of it can just be captured in femininity, which we all possess to some degree. And then it was, once again, bringing that personal experience, which is just, I wanted to play with people that I love collaborating with. Christy Zuniga is fantastic. I'm glad that Amy Tiemann can come. She grew up in Blair and was a student of mine for a while. She's now in Texas. I thought it'd be nice to bring her back. Hopefully she still has family in the area and can appreciate being here. But I liked that I had a fully professional, wonderful woman friend that I also used to mentor. I thought that kind of fit, the spirit of, helping each other through life and through art. And the dancer is a woman. I thought that was probably the one collaborator that I did want to be female, just because she's physically going to represent, the feminine. Not that it couldn't be done, I think, with a male dancer, but I'm glad that Catherine is able to do it. And then, of course, Christina has been a wonderful sister, friend, support, mentor for me. And so that's an easy collaboration.
And to the symphony and to OCMS. I mean,
Mhm.
if you weren't, if you didn't see them, the programs for, oh my gosh, since I think 2018, I want to say have all featured work donated by Christina Norwich for the Chamber Music Society to use. So for at least 7 years now, we have had these gorgeous paintings of hers across our material, and just adding this vibrancy to already really wonderful programming. Not that I'm biased or anything, but
No, she's really something special.
Yeah.
Vibrancy about captures it too. It's super organic, a lot of natural elements, woven in. I have a painting, with a cross section of a lotus stem in it, and leaves, and these bright colors, and she's really something special. And recently, she and I were talking about this project, and she's recently moved and recently gotten married, so she has a lot of changes in her life. And in her studio, she said she's also changed, and she's working on these huge canvas, big, kind of heavier, denser, I think is maybe the way she described it, pieces. And for this project, she knows it needs to be light and airy and, back down. She said it's actually going to be kind of a good practice for her to go from this new lifestyle of painting and then kind of refocus it down to something simpler and airier and lighter again.
Okay. All right. So everybody involved is basically having to shift their perspective a little bit for this program. Is that fair?
That's it. In fact, that's really a great observation. Catherine, the dancer, is, I think, excited about doing this with live musicians. She's choreographing the 2 solo flute pieces. She'll be dancing on stage while the two, well, I play one half and Amy Tiemann plays the other. And as prep for that, of course, I sent her recordings of the pieces that are going to be played. And she commented to me about the piece that I'll play, the Fluttering of Wings, that she heard all this humor in it. And I had never appreciated the humor in it. And I had always seen it as kind of like a bird trapped in a chimney flue or something. It's got this kind of quality to it, like a desperate quality. And she heard it and felt like it was this young bird trying to get off the ground and was frustrated and couldn't. And I thanked her for her perspective. And I said, it's going to totally shape my interpretation of a piece that I already know and love, because it should grow and change with the performers that are depicting it.
How much of this music have you played prior to this?
I've played the As It Fell Upon a Day, but as the flutist. This time I'm doing it as the vocalist. There's several pieces where I'm doing the vocal part in lieu of a singer. That was not to snub any vocalists, but my own mother was a wonderful soprano, and we just this month passed what would have been her 80th birthday, and so kind of as a tribute to her, and having grown up hearing vocal music my whole growing up experience, I wanted to be the singer in these pieces and incorporate my own nod to my feminine core, my mother.
Should have recorded this for Mother's Day.
Well, I mean, everything is so thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
Every choice feels very deliberate, and yeah,
it does, and it's remarkable that, again, when I saw this program, I'm just like, okay, how do you even begin? Where do you even start? Do you remember what was part of the original Red Cloud program and what was expanded out?
Knowing that was probably just going to be solo flute painter, I started looking for just solo flute pieces. But I didn't find enough, knowing that we could potentially be out in the prairie for 45 minutes, an hour, that I needed to find enough music to kind of keep it fresh. So if we did a video, or if they talked about maybe bringing audience by tram or whatever, to the site, I needed to keep enough repertoire to keep it fresh. And I felt it too limiting. So then I started thinking, well, why don't I just do Copland clarinet concerto on flute without the piano part? Why don't I just do As It Fell Upon a Day vocal without the, and just trace some of the melodies?
Okay.
So the germ of the idea started with me just thinking I would extract this and extract that from pieces. And then when I had the idea to take it to Omaha Chamber Music Society, the very logical expansion of that is to have the actual instrumentation and not have to have the reduced version of it. The thing in Red Cloud is not happening this year, but they like the way the project has developed, and they've talked about maybe bringing us out, for another year. So it makes me extra glad that I reached out to Omaha Chamber Music Society, because it'll have a chance to have feet this year. Because otherwise, it would have been a great idea that just kind of sunk back into the ground. And this has given it new life. I think, the choices have been really intentional, as you just mentioned, Serena, but it's popped up from this person's idea and this person's idea. Christina has decided, just one example among many, that she's going to paint the tunic that the dancer is going to wear. She's gotten into painting on textiles, made sure that, Catherine was comfortable with that. Catherine said, I just need to have it and see it so I can actually incorporate it into the choreography, make sure that it's comfortable. But everybody's been really flexible when these ideas have come up. Like, yes, if these things, can happen. So when I started talking to Christina, painter, about all of these collaborative ideas, she's like, isn't it a bit much? And that's when I started thinking it could be. So I need to be careful how much is happening on stage at once. I also have narrator.
I saw that, and I wanted to ask what that's going to be. Okay, what's that even going to be like? What are they narrating? How are they? Is it between pieces? Is it during pieces? Is it all of the above?
It's all of the above without making it too piecey and lengthy. So because I'm doing so many vocal pieces, I can't convey the beautiful text through the flute. And I didn't want it just to be in program notes, because that would take too much energy away from what was happening on stage, to read the notes, to understand, what the inspiration is. And so because of Omaha Chamber Music Society and other arts organizations, connection to KVNO, I knew about Katrina from her work as a DJ broadcaster, radio host. That's probably the better word. Loved her voice, had met her through some instrument drives, knew she was a great person. So I wanted that voice. I love her voice. And she will, before the piece, read the text, with the exception of the Edstrom, which is, we're going to do 5 songs from that cycle, which I think originally has maybe 15 songs in it. And I think for that, she'll need to briefly kind of interrupt between songs and say the text, so that people know the energetic or emotional context of the piece that's coming, the song that's coming.
Got it.
And is there kind of specific pacing that you've thought of through the program? Is the narrator going to kind of push that?
That's something, once again, that will in part be collaborative, because we need to wait till we're together, and there may be things that shift. I hope, that she'll be on stage with us and not coming on and off or anything like that, but sitting, perhaps even, just in a natural way, reacting to what she's seeing on stage.
I did appreciate that during the Alexander Payne concert, that Alexander stayed on stage, and he just had a stool off to the side, because it was kind of like watching a kid in a candy shop, where they're getting everything they've ever wanted and get to just like experience it in the moment. So obviously this is different, but I like the idea of having her be part of the actual performance, even when she's not speaking.
And no expectations of her to do anything, but just to be part of it, because she is. Christine is going to paint during the music. But the question has kind of come up for her and for us, which pieces? Should it be all of them? Probably not, because again, too much and it takes away from how special it is. But we want to give her enough time on stage to, at least get the basic painting done. She said she may, finish it later or whatever. She may start it before. So we've given some thought to that. The only thing I thought maybe she should not be on stage painting for were the solo flute with dancer, because I wanted that to kind of have a sparse feel to it.
How do you also envision, because again, it's very non-traditional chamber concert, do you envision asking people to hold applause until the end of each half? Or would you appreciate a natural break by having people recognize each piece as it happens? How would you like people to, I guess what I'm asking is, how would you like people to leave the hall after? How, feeling like thoughtful, be it feeling rejuvenated?
I think I won't suggest anything about applause. I never want people to feel there's a right or a wrong way to come to a concert. If people clap between movements, it's never particularly bothered me. So I want people to come to the concert and leave the concert feeling freed, feeling, that their wheels have started spinning, that they want to see more dance. They want to look at more visual art. They want to look at, not that this is part of the program too, but want to look at vintage photographs of the prairie, from the time that Willa Cather might have been there. I want people to read a book and wonder what music might accompany it. I think anything that sort of gets us to take a beautiful object and look at it from a slightly different angle, I think is worthwhile.
Oh, that's lovely. It's almost like the idea of the prairie. It's like you're planting a seed with this concert.
Oh, I love that.
Well, thank you. But it's like
seed blows in the wind.
Right. And then it carries off, and it might be hundreds of years later, but you get to see this glorious result. And, someone who didn't have Nebraska on her bingo card when she was growing up, I grew up in Delaware. So the idea of the Great Plains was just beyond the scope of my imagination. And there is that feeling, even the first time you start driving, even to Lincoln, that far west, and you see this expanse open up around Ashland. And you just had no idea that this kind of terrain was possible. So this idea that instead of catharsis, instead of triumph, what you're really hoping is that people are inspired and kind of carry this within themselves to grow more later.
It's theirs. The idea is ours. The collaboration is ours. The gift is for them to take it and do with it what they will. Yeah, a seed in the wind. I like that very much.
I love that so much. The gift is theirs. That would be a perfect point to end, but we can't.
Okay.
We can't end on such a beautiful note. No. Okay. So there's so much, Maria. There are so many birds on this program. So many birds. And Serena, I'm going to tee you up. Serena, as a fellow flutist, you need to ask this question.
I was wondering when you were talking about finding the pieces for this program, especially solo flute, if you kind of came across like a section of music about birds probably more often than not. For flute, I find we tend to be written as a bird very often. And just as, a fun, this is a very serious, very thoughtful conversation, but just as a fun diversion, how you feel about always being a bird, either orchestrally or in always the music that you're playing all the time. I feel like I meet kind of two kinds of flute players, one of those who embrace it and those who resent it.
So lucky, actually. I love it. I mean, it's a great question. I think I love it because my mother is a soprano, that's part of it. She herself was a songbird. I think there's so many different kinds of birds. So believe it or not, that was something I thought about too. with all of the birds in the program, because there was a lot to choose from, I knew there would be a lot of birds in this program. But I didn't want it all to be like the same character bird. I didn't want it all to be the chirp, chirp, chirp and happy and right. Mm-hmm. That's why, the fluttering of wings I mentioned, I thought of it as this dark thing and a bird trapped, or it's my interpretation initially was kind of dark. What's the bird up against kind of feeling, there's these pitch bends where it's descending, so it's not this uplifting, happy, fluttery thing. The beef tink is
so lovely.
It's a little less literal, but it's got the cheerfulness, of birds, and it captures it in a very listenable way. It kind of reminds me of a Hallmark card version of a bird piece, if that makes sense. It's approachable. I really like his writing. I think it's very cinematic. It's something people could hear in a movie, and it would fit right in. And then the Wharton piece is Where Are the Watchers, that he wrote during COVID. And he's a New Yorker, and he went to Central Park, and he considered the emptiness of Central Park from the birds' point of view.
Oh,
like they must be missing people to feed them and look at them and, care that they're congregating and all of that. So his piece has a few moments of like birdie call, but it's more the thoughtfulness of birds. And it's going to be, I think, a unique piece. It can be done any number of players. It can be a solo flute. It can be multiple flutes. He transposed it, so it's going to be 2 flutes and clarinet. And I'm experimenting with the idea of pre-recording myself playing it and having it in the speaker in the back in the hall, so that there's a bird up over the shoulder.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was also intentional. I didn't want them all to be Peter and the Wolf birds,
Did you kind of research what birds are native to the area?
No, but that would have been a really lovely idea.
But I love the idea that birds in a lot of ways represent freedom, and that they have this really fantastic ability to express themselves in a way that humans recognize as expression, right? There's not a lot of other animals where their normal everyday thing is something that we immediately what's that, anthropomorphize? Mm-hmm. Is that the really fancy word? That we immediately do that and humanize it. And so you called your mom a songbird, that's so there's freedom in that. There's a lot of expression in that. But I also think one of the things I did learn when I was digging through this Willa Cather stuff is this both fear and embracing of the unknown and this incredible vastness ahead of you when you do anything new or go anywhere new. And I do imagine for a bird, when you're encountering something as huge and massive as the plains, as the sky, is something, there's this huge amount of possibility, but also the amount of risk and unknown. Cannot imagine what a bird's perspective of that must be, or if they even had any awareness of that vastness, or if they just are able to do.
I'd like to think birds do have an awareness. I know, that they are not capable of the same kind of thought and emotion that we have, but it's always caught my attention when I see birds lined up on a wire. Birds have such freedom. They could go anywhere, and yet they choose to congregate. It's always made me wonder why. Is it just survival? Is it just mating? I don't think so. I think there's a community there. And now that I say that out loud, it kind of fits the spirit of this collaborative event. We're free. We couldn't fly anywhere, but we choose to, have this cross cultivation of spoken word, dance, painting, music.
And that was apparently all over Willa Cather's writing, was embracing the people who came out to be part of this vast prairie with you, who also made the adventure and made the trek, and had this moment of possibly brief insanity, but took the risk of coming to places like Nebraska when it wasn't well known. Maria, this is such a cool program. Is there anything our audience can do in advance to prepare themselves, or should they just come in and kind of let it happen and be a blank slate and see what germinates?
I think, either approach would have its advantages.
Okay.
If you don't prep, you come in without any preconceived notions and just, experience it and let it wash over you. If someone wanted to prep, I would suggest they get out to Fontenelle Forest or Lauritsen Gardens and just spend some time walking and touching and smelling what's around them. I mentioned a moment ago vintage photographs. I thought that could be a nice prep too for anyone that wanted to pour through books of old pioneer prairie. I went to a beautiful photo exhibit or photo presentation at the Kaneko recently, where he had spent years of his life following the whooping cranes and photographing whooping cranes. And I have since been inspired to sit and, just look through his photographs and imagine his experience. So anything connected to birds, I think would be potentially inspiring, but you don't have to go far. You can just sit out in your backyard and just sit and listen, because they're everywhere. And I think nature and inspiration will come to people wherever they find themselves.
I wonder, with your with how much you love this interdisciplinary kind of work, did you have a particular experience, either as a performer or as an audience member, that kind of started this? Or was it something that was always interested in, that you've always been doing since you were a student, or that kind of?
That's a great question. I think I've always, when I was young, I thought maybe I was going to be a playwright. I wrote plays when I was young, and of course starred in them and directed them. No control freak in me or anything. My favorite classes were art. I still remember a lot of the projects we had to do in art and try to duplicate that as an adult. I take lots of classes and how to make pinch pots and how to make floral arrangements and things like that. So I'm glad that I, through my parents' encouragement, I think too, knew that I didn't have to be an artist to participate in art. I don't have to be a dancer to participate in dance. It's important to keep these things vital in my life, even though my discipline and what I've chosen as my career path is music, that I can still welcome these other elements. And because my discipline is music, the way I can let others share in that experience is to take professionals from their areas of discipline and highlight them. Frankly, one of the inspirations that showed me it was possible is through the Omaha Symphony's Celebrate Creativity program, because they do such a great job. It's in the Joslin Museum, first of all, chamber symphony orchestra, and for kids at a high school level who've expressed some kind of interest in the arts in a general sense, they bring in dancers, they bring in young performers, so that these young people watching with their varied artistic interests, can see, what does a line look like in architecture? What does it look like in dance? What does it look like in music? And know that there's a thread that connects it all, and that they can participate in the arts with whatever talents they bring to it. I just thought that was brilliant educational programming, and it inspired me to seek out the same, to wonder about movements in architecture. How does it parallel movements in music, etc.? So all of these things have been supported and fostered, I guess, in my own early life and professional life. And then just to be surrounded by such great friends in the Omaha area with such interesting, varied talents makes me want to collaborate and celebrate.
Love that. It's a great question. I guess, yeah, if no one told you you couldn't, what would you do? Maria, this was absolutely tremendous. I just have one more question for you. If you were a bird, what kind of bird would you want to be?
What kind of bird would I want to be?
So many birds.
I know. I'm trying to even think. Would it be a big bird or a small bird? I'm thinking it would be a medium big bird. Something that isn't traditionally known for its great song. So maybe like, believe it or not, a crow.
Ooh.
Or go a little bigger, raven kind of thing,
So you can drop shiny things that the people you have chosen to love. You can encourage them with shiny.
A sense of awe, a foreboding.
I mean, they're very, very smart. They're extremely smart, and if they pay you attention, you have done something right. Like you can have a crow friend for life, apparently, if you go about things the right way.
I like that. Yeah, I think I'm a crow. And look, I've got my black top to prove it.
And your beautiful purple hair to go with it.
I like hanging out in cornfields.
I will look for the shiny object of your choice sometimes. Yes. And for those of you who are audio only, Maria just checkmated with a flute pantomime when I asked for a shiny object. All right, we got to call it there.
I'm definitely a crow.
Perfect. Perfection. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you guys very much.
I love this job.